happening, but positive news, right? See, I was talking about this today as well, that if you see the Reserve Bank of India, for example, right, look at the overdrive that the RBI is to support the liquidity measures pre and post the rate cut, a rate cut in between. Now the leeway given to MFIs, NBFCs, etc. Chalo, you can go and lend. So you know that the regulator is in support, including the government doing what they did in the budget.
And it also means that the regulator is allowing some bit of risk to be taken as well by the banking system.
Yeah. But फिर भी the sentiment is just.
But really that's why only the Nifty Bank is up half
exactly.
%.
Half a percent. वही है कि Nifty Bank ठीक है, but कोई parallel नहीं हुआ. And the small caps are down. I mean, we'll of course talk about the brutal bloodbath in some of the building materials companies, cable and wire company, but 1.87%. Yeah, this must. With this close, by the way, one last point here, with this close, so February series ends in a red.
4% down, 3% down in Nifty. February expiry to expiry.
The point is, the 5 straight expiries in the red, this is last years. Done in 1996.
28 years.
Wherein, exactly. So, bhai.
28 साल में पहली बार हो रहा है 5 महीने continuously indexes follow.
And I think our colleague Swamit put out the data that March also generally, like, while it is speculative ki last 10 Marches kaisa raha hai, that also data has been like not very good in terms of sectoral also. Auto sub down hi rehte in this month because it's like going into the last month sales generally is decent, but still I think that sectoral also it doesn't paint a very good picture for this month as well.
Yeah, I think आज Nifty 50 का expiry है, Nifty Bank का expiry है, Nifty Mid Cap Select का expiry है. ये 3 तो चल ही रहे हैं expiry. And I think that's what is playing out also. But small and mid cap is bad. Is
okay, let's start with the worst news then.
Yeah.
Cable and wires.
1,800 crores of capex and 18,000 crores of market
cap erosion. Yeah.
For
Ultratech
alone.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take Polycab, it another 14,000 crores of market cap gone from there. But what's the intent behind it?
Yeah, I mean, from their perspective, I was reading one of the notes which said that they have a lot of B2B clients.
Yes.
And now you're not only talking Ultratech.
Yes.
Yeah.
Puneet will talk about the cables and wires, right?
Wires, yeah.
But for Ultratech, but they said that they have a lot of B2B clients and they believed, or the belief is that they will be able to sell these cables and wires if they can make them at good costs and decent quality to the B2B clients. So a lot of talk about how there's synergies nahi hai, decision maker alag hai, sab kuch hai. And I think that is what is weighed in on the stock today as well, aside of the fact that a cement company getting into this. Why? Yeah. When you are so aggressive in cement itself, aapne acquisitions kiya, ye kiya, wo, in order to stay ahead of the curve, why do you want to now try and do other things?
Yeah.
Maybe a valid question. Who knows? I mean, but
are you of the proportion that they are looking at return of capital? I think this business has a better return of capital compared to cement. But I think that is the only one thing which I saw which people
are you saying cement growth is over then?
No, not growth.
1800 crore आप डाल रहे हो. It's not a small sum, even though you're
continuing
capex. It's small
compared
to a paints business जहाँ पर 10,000 crores की बात कर रहे हैं.
Agree. But आप 1800 crore डाल रहे हो, तो आप बोल रहे हो कि चलो अभी मेरे को सीमेंट में enough तेजी नहीं है कि मैं इसमें जा रहा हूँ. Is that the call, or is it that नहीं चलो we'll do everything allied?
I think what the market is not liking is that the venture capital role that many of the Aditya Birla Group companies are taking up.
Yeah.
They don't have an issue if the promoter starts investing and creates a business, but using existing like Grassing going into paints, Ultratech going into wires and cables, and who knows tomorrow, and Hindalco will also go into something else.
Yeah.
In that sense.
So then they will argue that ये extensions है.
तो Ultratech का कैसे extension है ये?
कि जब सीमेंट बेच रहे हैं तो घर में जाता हुआ जो है वो सब बेचेंगे.
So
ऐसे तो सब कुछ बहुत कुछ हो सकता है.
So सीमेंट बेच रहे हो, पेंट बेच रहे हो.
Yeah. वो भी बेच सकते हैं.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying.
The point is that the only argument I saw in one of the reports is saying that there is a small overlap because fully integrated business, home products solution stores, UBS, which is there, can accommodate both wires and cables and this. But that is a small amount. Here you're talking about an electrician, which is going to play a big role. In the case of paint, it was a contractor which was doing it, and I was reading one report which said that okay, Polycab had that CC rod unit, which was bought over by Hindalco.
Yeah.
Now that same unit is going to supply CC rods to Ultratech for wires and cables.
But if this business was housed under Grasim, do you think that this kind of reaction wouldn't have happened?
On Ultratech?
No, so this new business, wires and cables, if it was housed under Grasim and not Ultratech, do you think the market reaction wouldn't have been so extreme? Or
reaction for Ultratech or reaction for the cable wire?
For Ultratech,
yeah. Then it wouldn't
because
have.
paints, to वैसे भी they are investing, but I think just because it's coming under this division, and I think that was the similar report I think had it could have been under Hindalco also. ऐसे तो but I think because they are under capex of $11 billion already, it would have saddled it more, and there you would have seen a more extreme reaction.
No, but Hindalco, see, last point here, Hindalco is not as naturally aligned to building materials per se as Ultratech is. Right? So you could argue that चलो ठीक है.
Yes.
Now again, paints is not necessarily entirely a B2B product as much as B2C, largely, right?
Yeah.
But this is, you could argue, is a large B2B product as well.
Yeah.
मैं cement बेच रहा हूँ, मैं इनको ये भी बेच रहा हूँ. That is Ultratech's argument, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Faiz they might be laughing, but for now, Sajeet is right. 1800 crore का है capex, 18,000 crore का market cap.
क्या और क्या means it's a
and sales channel is also very different, right? Because for cement, of course, it's cement dealers, but for this thing is more electricians, more hardware stores.
I thought if Grasim was going to get into it, then it would have been a better way. The reaction won't be as.
My question is only this: is cables and wires, इसमें B2B business of the total sector कितना है? Let's say if it's
80,000 crores का total है.
Total है. B2B कितना है? So अगर B2B suppose
80,000 का 30% लेके चलो.
अगर 30% है, तो सारे reports बोल रहे हैं कि Ultratech will not even capture 7% of the market.
Yeah.
So then Ultratech's argument, and play the devil's advocate, Ultratech's argument is कि भाई I am largely making this as a B2B play, and I'll sell it to people.
But that's not the communication which Ultratech is
Yeah.
So no, I'm just trying to give a counter argument. Has it been a move that has not been appreciated in markets? Clearly not.
Yes.
No.
So therefore, yes, and the market will not like a player which is telling key people that I will do whatever it takes to remain the leader in cement. Suddenly saying कि मैं 1800 करोड़ कहीं और डाल रहा हूँ, and therefore are you signaling to the market कभी cement में हो गया? Clearly not. I mean Ambuja is a large player. Trying to make its presence felt. Shree, etc. Everybody is saying that we are expanding capacities.
Yeah.
Why is Ultratech doing this?
Yeah.
Stick to cement. And
they are anyway under the whole capacity building. I think they're right now 150 million ton. They're going to 220 in the next 2 years. So I think there वो capex तो वैसे भी चल रहा था.
Exactly.
So this is over and above that. But I think
मैं मरूँ और तुझे भी साथ लेके चलो.
नहीं, but ये बताओ कि wires and cable business you look very closely, right? How do you see that entire thing? Ultratech will take at least 5 years to come in.
Yeah.
By 26 end is when the first factory is going to come in Bharuch,
yes.
and they will take at least 1 or 2 years before they could be eligible for the B2B, what you are talking about, right? So, what is the kind of and we are talking about, if we are talking of B2B, then Polycab and all only बाकी so but high tension wires जो होते हैं, those are the one which has high margins and everything. Those are the one which you should be high tension wires and everything. That should be the one which you should. Those companies are the one which will be impacted.
So one thing is that they've not mentioned that they're getting into wires or they're getting into cables, and both are like very different businesses. And like because we see that within the listed players, a lot of them are into wires. So RR Cable has 70% revenues from wires. Havel 60-65% from wires, Finolex cables from wires, and KEI, which is getting hammered the most, is into cables. So, which is I think down 20%. But the idea is that cables, the use cases is more for power transmission and all these companies, and you need to go under a qualification process. So that might take more time. So I think there was a very interesting note today by Equirus where they were suggesting what could be the revenue potential specifically if it's 100% wires, if it's 50% wires, and if it's 0% wires. So they are suggesting that if it's 100% wires, they can go to 7,000 crores in revenue in FY29. So that's still 4 years away.
ये कैसे calculate करते हैं यार 7,000 crore revenue?
So the assumption is asset turn of 4 times.
No.
On a
the
lighter
entire industry which we are talking about is wires and cables together 80,000 crores.
Yes.
एंड उसमें 7,000 करोड़ का अगर हम ये रेवेन्यू देख रहे हैं तो
so wires उसमें से 25,000 crores,
हाँ
Polycab उसमें से 7 है because they have like 17% market share. तो उसमें if these guys get and they are suggesting कि ये खुद ही अकेले 7,000 crores पहुंच जाएंगे in 4 years. So that's another big number. That's assumption कि asset turn of 4 times utilization 75% पहले ही साल में of FY28 and 100% in year 2. But I think I think a lot of Excel वो pull कर दिया. But I think that is the assumption. The second ones, but I think one of the most interesting, if they get into cables, I think it will change the industry dramatically because the bigger size 55,000 crores का है. And I think Ultratech, if it knowing what they've done, the more difficult thing to do would be getting into cables, and I think they would get into cables.
So who gets impacted?
So KEA definitely gets impacted by it. While Polycab doesn't give a split between wires and cables, they would be also having a lot of portion coming from cables division. 30% तक तो हो गए उनका. So overall 85% उनका total revenues comes from wires and cables both. I think while they don't give us split and we could just be speculating, it would be at least 25-30% from the cables part.
So KEA is coming at 1 p.m. on the channel, right?
Yes. Okay. And I think that is going to be the most interesting conversation of the day because effectively let's see what the management has to say as well. But yeah, I think that was one of the major things. I think the potential of revenue, if there's only 100% cables, falls by 2/3 actually. Compared to 7,000 crores, if it's 100% cables, 100 wires, and 100% cables, है तो 2,200 crore.
The biggest growth driver for the next 2 to 3 years is transmission cable business, which is there, right?
Yeah.
That is high tension wires which are used for transporting electricity, either from the renewable farms or from the
cables, right?
Cables. That requires, and I heard you saying in the morning as well, that requires at least 2 to 3 years for certification and everything which coming through. So what we are looking at is that after the commercial production happens, certifications they go for it. 2029 तक वो आएगा. पर तुम 2029 में तो 7,000 करोड़ का तुम रेवेन्यू बोल रहे हो.
If it's only 100% wires, cables हुआ
नहीं, growth तो वहाँ पर आ रहा है.
Growth तो हाँ वो है.
Residential में नहीं है.
It's more easier to build a ramp up also. So I think they might choose to do both of those businesses together. I think just we'll have to await a lot of more details from that aspect, at least on them, what they decide to eventually do.
It's going to be see, the reaction to Polycab and KEI is primarily because fragmentation is creating fear in the market, and that's what but
as it should.
As it should. Means that's what we've been hearing many experts talking about. The moment you hear about fragmentation, स्टॉक्स टूटने लग जाते हैं एंड दे लूज मार्केट वैल्यू व्हिच इज देयर इन एंटिसिपेशन कि कभी तो आएगा बोल के.
और एक्सपेंसिव है, ऐसा नहीं कि चीप है.
हाँ वो भी.
I think because from 2021 we saw a very big ramp up and all because the story was कि data centers need a lot of wires and cables and while power distribution is slow right now, it will eventually start coming in FY25-26 which is right now. जो हम देख रहे हैं थोड़े orders already आ रहे हैं. So I think that is where the PEs are getting hammered today and I think no one saw it coming, but yes, unfortunately it is. And I think what we saw in paints also, like what we saw in Asian paints, कि वो people didn't anticipate इतना problem होगा. They just wrote it off कि Birla Opus coming in won't be as bad. But I think then, and I think you guys have covered a lot of that over the last year, कि it was much more pain than anticipated earlier.
So the question is अब क्या, right? So the question is अब क्या, and the answer to that is this: that if you see Asian paints,
yes,
Opus's Birla's entry did not change the pecking order. Asian is unequivocal leader.
Yes.
A stock from 3,300 is currently at 2,200.
Yeah.
Fragmentation, fear, multiples derating.
Yeah.
This has happened. Fall in market share as well.
Yeah.
It has happened.
मतलब मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि you can argue that at some point of time these guys, if Ultratech comes in, everybody will lose a little bit of market share also presumably. So the market will fear that अगर ये stocks इतने expensive हैं already, right? मोतीलाल ओसवाल note says कि हम लोग derate कर रहे हैं multiple. That is what will happen. It is not that Polycab will cease to be the leader, but right now the market will say, okay, why should I now give so much of a multiple?
Yes.
The template is played out in paints. It will likely play out here. The whole market is down. If I want to shop, let me go elsewhere.
Yeah. The other aspect very interesting was what he did in paints, he doubled his capex within 6 months. So it was 5,000 crores, doubled it. There's a brokerage note that says it could happen here as well. So 1,800 crore का जो capex है, it could eventually double because money is not a problem currently. It's one time के नीचे leverage है Ultratech का.
Anyways.
And yeah.
So yeah, but it's 12:50, so we need to move on to
we should take
topics
some
as
questions,
well.
a couple of questions also.
Yes, there are questions. Okay.
What's the best way to sit on cash looking at the
current scenario?
Best way to sit on cash, well, sit on cash is sit on cash. Well, आप liquid में डाल दो. I would normally people would say sit on gold as well. Buy gold because gold is appreciating. Gold has done 10-11% in this year already.
Yes.
So you might want to be a little careful there if you will. If your
And I
purpose
think there's
is
some more rally to it, right? Because
Possible.
Trump जब तक आएगा, जब तक settle नहीं होगा, तब तक वो rally होगा.
possible, entirely possible. All I'm saying is difficult to say. So I'm not an expert, but yeah, liquid funds are a good idea.
Tanam Gupta, Niraj sir, you mentioned a recycling company looking good fundamentally.
No. I didn't. Okay, so there are a lot of
I think
recycling
last
companies
week
which
you
are
mentioned
Amar
about
Raja
the-
and all that. Yeah.
No.
No,
Does the
recycling
segment-
companies. Well, sector pe, the
Yeah.
companies are giving good guidance numbers.
Yes.
So the Gravitas, Tina Rubbers, etc.
Yeah.
of the world, all of them are giving good guidance. You need to do your own checks essentially and figure out which one. But please keep in mind, valuation should not be expensive. So there are some which, on the basis of the guidance that they've given, might look attractive. And attractive is a very relative term, right, these days. So be careful. But yeah,
Relatively attractive.
Relatively attractive. But the sector is giving good commentary for the next 2 years, which to my mind is good. There are not too many companies which are able to say, okay, FY 26, 27 growth is this. And therefore that's interesting.
And as we spoke last week as well, this is a sector in terms of it's still an emerging sector.
Yeah, exactly. So be careful.
Be careful on it.
Hotels.
Revival Physio, IDFC Bank.
I think we'll get to banks in a bit. I think there's one question on hotels. Why are stocks like Club Mahindra not performing well? Is it due to the management? Indian Hotels has been the market leader.
Completely different model.
Timeshare hai na?
Yeah, exactly. Very different model. So I think that was one. And
So don't club the two, if you will. One, and Sajeet, are you Club Mahindra user? I'm not,
Yes.
so I don't quite know.
Yes, I am. But I haven't used for a while actually.
That's the reason. That's the reason.
Yeah. But they're investing a lot in getting into newer properties. I think Club
yes.
Mahindra. I think that.
So properties
it's
are good.
Capex,
It's all about subscription, and I think people are now saying that why should I block my amount for such a big period, because there's an annual amount also which comes into play, right?
और apparently बहुत दूर हैं abroad, उनके hotels main center से बहुत दूर हैं.
I think if you're in
India
India,
may be
they're the
more-
best.
India may be the best, yeah.
India they have the best units.
Really?
Yeah.
But it is still thoda farther away from the city centers, yeah.
But yeah,
because you want to get that view.
But you want to get that view, right? It means why will you go stay in the middle of a city? छुट्टी पे जा रहे हो तो तुम, these are not meant for business travel. This is meant for leisure and holiday.
And just one question which has been pointed out, what is happening with SGBs? Did government make a miscalculation? Should I be worried as a holder? This is something which we get quite regularly. But yeah.
Sovereign gold bonds.
Government guarantee है यार. I doubt you should be worried as a holder.
Or I think over last 2 days we've been seeing a lot of social media
posts.
Chatter on this.
Yeah.
Saying that I think there's a miscalculation that happened on behalf of government, saying that 2.5% पे आपने भेज दे दिया और now the liability is over 1 lakh crore or something which is coming in.
Yeah.
But I think government is now not interested in coming up with new SGBs. So
No, but existing holder के लिए is that a problem? I would suspect no.
It's a sovereign guarantee, so it's secure in that sense. फिर आपका आ जाता है IDFC बैंक का आपको कुछ कहना है?
नहीं सर, खाली ये कि आज के नोट्स में सारे में लिखा था कि बैंक्स लाइक IDFC फर्स्ट, फेडरल बैंक, IndusInd बैंक एंड बंधन will all benefit because of this.
Because any future lending to MFI sector or MFI clients will attract a lower provisioning now. 125 से 100% हो गया वो, and that means that more capital is available for banks to lend. The other thing is that many of the companies are already facing this issue with respect to the kind of exposure they have to the MFI sector. So if they are lending further, they will have to be very careful with respect to the risk processes in place, so that they don't fall into a trap of NPAs going forward. That's the only thing. I think Bandhan, IDFC, IndusInd, all were facing the same issue because of the MFI issue which is there.
I think one of the most starking which in this particular result was that they were calling, the question by analysts was कि to your borrower कितने lenders और है, उनमें 3 lenders है, 4 lenders है. So I think those stocks got corrected the most, where they had 4 different lenders, say one person had borrowed and We saw that
I
kind
think
of
the
delinquency as well.
MFIN industry, the industry
Industry,
body
yeah.
is already looking at
it, yeah.
how to ensure that the exposure
Yeah.
to multiple MFIs can come down. Or means individual exposure to multiple MFIs comes down to 3 from 4 as of now. So that is something which the industry has to work on, and I think the regulator must have already told them very clearly that you have to make sure that, because there is process available for any MFI to see what is the kind of exposure you have, an individual has to microfinance institutions. The only thing is that after that deregulation that happened, it went from 1% to household. So उस चक्कर में काफ़ी exposure बढ़ा है. But that is something which needs to come down. There is something on Nvidia, your favorite. After Nvidia results, can we expect Indian semiconductor industry to do well?
So no, sorry. So finally, on the SGBs, should one be worried as a holder? No, one should be worried as a holder.
No one should be worried about as a holder of sovereign gold bonds, because it's backed by the government. Simple as that.
Simple.
So if they ask for it back, जो हम एक दो, I think I'm not sure, but I think one of them. So उसमें it's like you lose out on that interest, right? So it's not a calculation per se, right? Or is it something that they pay up upfront? So if it's a 8-year, 9-year bond, if they called it back in 6 years, what happened to your interest that you would eventually get in your?
You get the interest, right?
You'll get it पहले only.
Yeah, you'll get the interest at the time of redemption. जो भी interest आपको मिलेगा.
Redemption तक का जो है वो
मिल जाता है.
हाँ, वो मिलेगा.
And I think the question was actually Anant Raj data center or overall data center looks good in terms of the Nvidia question.
Nvidia question.
Because we've seen the correction in that stock as well a lot.
Yeah, वही है कि अभी now this, because of this whole AI thing, the whole and the question marks over कितना electricity चाहिए, कितना data चाहिए, कितना data center चाहिए, that is a bit in the air. If you hear the Anant Raj management, they are saying that based on the assumptions discounted as well, there is enough data center capacity needed. They have it ready at a good cost, and therefore they will not suffer. But time will tell.
Yeah.
I think sorry, on this the data is not completely clear because it's an evolving technology on which not enough clarity. But I would suspect that even the data center capacities that have been announced by various companies, right,
will fall short.
Will as of now looks like it is falling short.
Yeah.
So therefore shouldn't be a problem.
And the impact of DeepSeek, I don't think we're going to, while the government is talking about open source AI architecture and everything which is there, but I don't think DeepSeek is going to have an impact in India, because the Indian government is very wary of Chinese.
Agreed. The only thing that happens, viewers, is that अगर लोग मान रहे थे कि 10 साल तक 25% grow होगा, तो अभी if that is under question mark, then the multiples come down for an Anant Raj, for everybody else. So bear that in mind.
And देखो battery makers ने भी बोला है कि like the commentary उनका भी is something to watch out for, because they have industrial batteries for data centers. So I think they are also have been mentioning that as well.
Okay, last question, right? Because we need to go for the 1 p.m. interview.
Yes. Kaushal Dakalia. Do you think stress in microfinance as a sector is over?
हाँ बताइए.
नहीं, मेरे हिसाब से नहीं है. It's going to continue for some more time. Means even though there's some relaxations made by the Reserve Bank of India on Tuesday by reducing the risk weightage and provisioning norms, but it is going to continue for at least 2 more quarters. What the Reserve Bank has done is that any future lending risk provisioning will be lower. But जो आपने already lend करके रखा है उसमें जो pain है वो तो आएगा ही आएगा.
Yes.
You have to bear that pain and you have to take it off the balance sheet or P&L, whatever way you want to do it. But वो तो करना ही पड़ेगा. But it's a clear signal by the Reserve Bank of India saying that you can now take little bit risk because I'm reducing the risk weightage which is there. But the thing is, it's meant for banks lending to MFI customers directly or through their wholly owned subsidiaries. It's not as of now for others which is there. So banks के लिए तो उन्होंने थोड़ा सा relaxation किया है. अभी NBFCs के लिए उतना नहीं है. But it's how do you say? It's a wait and watch policy for that.
But I think how CLS put it कि देने वाला जब भी देता छप्पड़ फाड़ के अंदर. But I think the regulator has done more than what they could have or what was expected.
But stress तो रहेगा.
Stress रहेगा.
सजीत बोल रहा था
You can't.
मैं नहीं बोल
Logic है.
मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ जो मैंने पढ़ा है.
Logic है. But guys, sorry, we'll have to wrap it up here today. Thank you so much for joining in and much appreciate you.
But like and subscribe to our channel as well. Like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well for more such content.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in.
3 अभी यही मजे
पुनीत को भी नहीं जाना है? You're not going for the interview?
Which interview?
KEI?
Or